about thinking outside of the box, coming up with new things that aren't being done, that again will take you a long way. And lastly, you have to seek industry support from private companies, from public companies, even further than anything else. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I think that's it from us. We'll then take our picture and then we'll make room for the last speaker. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can. Thank you so much, colleagues. All right, thank you.
Really appreciate it. I will get you details because there's a lot of.
Young people, are you happy? I know you're tired, but it's day one. More information for you tomorrow. You need to go and invite other people to come and make sure we fill this place again. Remember, at the end of the day, you might walk away with some money. Do you remember? Do you remember? Stand up, stand up, stand up. Let's stand, let's stand. Young people, stand up. Come on. You are disappointing me now. You'll never know. We have a surprise for you. Young people, everybody stand up. Mvuse, 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 mvuse. Sugum, sugum. Yabona ngabanga sugumanga ukhomba ngeligama. Sugum, stand up. Stand up, stand up. Wena futhi. Are you all up? Stand up there, stand up there, stand up there. Young people, stand up there. Right there, stand up. Okay, let's do our last exercise. Just for the last speaker. Are you ready? Are you ready? Hands up. Young people. 1, 2. Hands up. To the left. Last one. Hands up. To the left. To the right. Clap once. Twice. 4 times. 5 times. 10 times. Woo! Our last speaker of the day. Let's welcome our brother on stage. I don't know what's happening with my phone now. Are you ready for the last speaker? I want him to come with me. Come with me. Let's welcome our brother Welile Molekwa on stage. Our last speaker of the day. Asimshayeli Zanda. He's the CEO. He's the people. Please listen to him. He's our last speaker. From here, we're going to wrap, then we go home. Thank you.
Sanbonani. 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 Ashaya izandla lapho. Jovicho. Azishe. Ziyasha. Ziyasha manje ne? It isn't she's. So all right. So yeah, I've themed it from seed to success. Now, the 5 things I'm going to talk to you about around cannabis. Number 1, what is cannabis? Because sometimes ukhuluma cannabis asiyazi ukuthi yini cannabis. Yabona? Umuntu ohlala athi zingishayile lapho ubhema insango that's worth 10,000 rands. Mayiqeda ukuthi hey anginamali kuyabheda. Number 2, the cannabis industry value, the value. Number 3, sizokhuluma about the uses of cannabis. Number 4, sizokhuluma about compliance and licensing, or licensing and compliance. And the last, get involved in the cannabis. Difference, there's little difference. There's what we call THC. THC is tetrahydrocannabinol. It is the compound lekwenza ukuthi ube high. So anything that is below 0.3% classified as what? Hemp. Are we getting it? So that's classified as hemp because it's below 0.3 THC. So it can make you high. Yes, masabhema back in the days. Okay, I used to back in the days experimenting, as many other young people have experimented. But back in the days, you know, I'm from the Eastern Cape. So back in the days, mahambo yotenga and then mabuya uthola ukuthi hayi ni bhemile nonke mara this thing is not doing anything. Babayibiza ukuthi ijaja. We didn't know. Kanti ijaja is the hemp. Yabona, it's the hemp. Uthola ukuthi hayi it's useless. Insanga yakhona is useless. It's the hemp, that one. So hemp, it's actually cultivated a lot for various reasons. For example, industrial use and other things. And then number two, the global cannabis market value. I want to talk about the global cannabis market value. You know, a cannabis value from 2002. 2002 is not 10 years ago. It's just a year ago. It was valued at 27.7 billion US dollars. It is going to grow to about 82.3 billion US dollars by 2027. So the question is, in 2027, uzabo kuphi? Uzabo sayibhema or uzobe uyi-millionaire through it? Asikhuluma into serious bafethu. Asikhuluma into serious. Yabona? So the question is, why is cannabis so expensive? Why is cannabis worth a lot of money? Because I think that's the question now. Now that siyazi ayikhona intsango ngaPhumalanga ngayithola, ngaya kuphi ngayithola, umuntu ufuna ukuyibhema, but why is it expensive? Why does it have such a value, cannabis? Hayi ukuthi nje siloko sithi hayi zingishayile manje azingishayile ezingishayile. Yes, emfethu ngicabanga ukuhamba ezingishayile nomunye ucabanga ukuhamba ezikushayile zingishayile mfethu sengicabanga ukuhamba after an hour emfethu ucabanga ukuhamba ezikushayile nomunye zingishayile sengicabanga ukuhamba. Let's go beyond that. Let's go beyond that and look at the value of a cannabis. Why is cannabis this important? It leads us to our third point, the cannabis uses. The uses. Umsebenzi wenzango kanti yini umsebenzi wenzango? Huh? Ungayibhemela ukuthi uzophasa imaths hayi. So, a cannabis basically has different compounds. There's compounds in a cannabis plant like your CBL, your THC, your THCV, your CBC. These are different types of compounds that are found in Zango, besides ukuthi zishaye. These are solutions. What you see here is what we call pharmaceutical stuff. Look at your neighbor and say, this is pharmaceutical stuff, man. It isn't as heavy. His stuff is heavy. It is stuff is heavy, guys. Yeah. Now we are talking about pharmaceutical stuff. So these are different compounds that are found in cannabis. So with cannabis, Intsango relieves pain. Intsango helps with epileptic seizures. Intsango helps with Alzheimer. As abantu abadala babugugile uthola ukuthi sometimes you lose umqondo. And in elokishini seniyafuna ukumshisa nithi uyaloya. Yabona aphuma endlini engagcokanga uluza umqondo nina senifuna ukumshisa elokishini nithi uyaloya. It's Alzheimer, it's a disease. Akusiwuloya. Yabona? So, yeah, it helps with Alzheimer's, improves heart health, enhances appetite, treats inflammatory bowels diseases such as ulcers. Leonto, yabona ulcers, intsango yawasiza. Increases sleep longevity. Ufuna ukulala intsango uyayisebenzisa. Hayi ngokuyibhema, asimene kahle ngokubhema. Ngizokutshela ukuthi uyisebenzisa kanjani. Ngiyazwa lapha sokunothi hey kumele ngiyithole tonight. Hayi. Oh. Hayi ngokuyibhema. It relieves arthritis, discomfort, it reduces glaucoma. So there's a lot of diseases that intsango is able with. You see? So kushuthi intsango is a solution. Neighbor and say, uvula masango lento. Ithi uvula masango lento. Yeah, it's toughless. All right. Now that we know ukuthi intsango has all these compounds that can be used, now how do we get into that? Now, if you are getting into farming of intsango, cultivation of medicines, generally, even without just ukuthi intsango, mara just the cultivation of medicines. Now we are talking about different farming. All right. All right. So, cannabis, it still goes on to say cannabis is being studied for further like PTSD, pain relief, epileptic seizures, weight control, Crohn's, asthma, you name it. So, which is now the licensing. It's my fourth point, licensing. Now, there are three key factors. Three that are very important within the space. Kuna standard, kuna processes. EGACP. EGACP stands for Good Agricultural Collection Practices. Good Agricultural Collection Practices. You get it? So if you're cultivating something and you export it to amanye countries, are you compliant with the GACP? Especially izinto ezidliwayo. Especially things that are consumed for GACP is basically the reason it's happening. You understand? So that's what basically the GACP is about. And then we move to point number 5. Number 5 is how can I get involved? We'll just move GACP. Okay, in fact, in the EU GMP as well, in the GMP, what we call good manufacturing practices. Kune standard esibizwa ngokuthi EU GMP. For example, if you want to cultivate intsango yakho and you want to export it to countries in Europe, you need to meet that standard. It's called the EU GMP. EU GMP is the highest certification. So these are the things that we specialize in at ISO management to make sure that we take care of all the processes. Zoguti, how it's cultivated, we design our facilities, and then we develop, we also construct, build a facility. And then, so how do you get involved? Let's get to that question. It mzala. Look at your neighbor and say, mzala. How do I get involved? It is ngena kanjani mzala. Akasibeke stars. Itakasibeke stars. All right. First, I think let me talk about what we call the cannabis for private use. Gonna bill, the private use bill in South Africa. Every time, yes, I go to places, but it's legal, manje. I want you to know what is the legal framework within intsango. There's what we call the private use bill. A private use bill is now using intsango in your private space as an adult, because that is regulated as well. So a private use bill basically says that you cannot sell intsango unless you have a license. Number one, Insango in South Africa is not legal to be sold to someone who does not have a license. When you're selling insango in South Africa, you sell it to someone that has a license only. You understand? You're selling it to someone, whether you are a cultivator and you are selling it to a company that processes it to medicine. And if you are going to buy insango, it puma a prescription with chemist. So you must go to a doctor. If you are a cannabis patient, you must register and become a patient, and then your doctor must issue a prescription. Then you can go to the counter with chemist at Uting Zoteng Insango. Na a prescription. As an adult, obviously, umthetho ekuvumela ukuthi uyisebenzise, mara senzo kanjani. Very important. Now, how you work with private use bill, it says an adult is allowed to have at least 4 plants. At least 4 plants. Don't go beyond 4 plants. Because mama ngithola unensi uzobosho. At least you must have 4 plants. So if it's 2 adults in a household, then at least you can have 8 plants. If need to. Ongathi ngoba nihlala ni5 manje uthi kumele sibe na 16, you're not allowed to go beyond 8. So you're not allowed to go beyond 8. Secondly, you're not allowed to go beyond 1.2 kilograms of dried cannabis endlini. If unenzango yakho akumelanga idlule ku 1.2 kilograms as a family. Uthi siyayithatha for a flu, siyayithatha for a pain, fine. Mara mayingadlula ku 1.2 kilograms kusho ukuthi uyayidayisa. Uzoboshwa. All right, are we together? Yeah, that is how private use bill works. Then mohamba as well. When you're walking in the street, you must not carry insango that is beyond 100 grams. You must not have more than 100 grams of insango. So ngeke sihlangana now uphethe school bag sonke. Uzoboshwa. This school bag sonke, how? All right. Then basically that's the legal framework, a private use. And then we have hemp and the license. So when hlangana nomuntu athi une permit, that means that person is cultivating what? Hemp. A permit isebenza kwa hemp, ne? And the hemp can be used for wellness and industrial purposes. So a hemp basically is the one that does not have a strong THC. Okay? Because the THC pen is a drug. So a hemp is the one that does not have that. So you can cultivate hemp. It's easier to get a permit. It's not as strict as the second one that I'm going to talk about now. So with the hemp, you can cultivate it. You need to organize a permit via the Department of Agriculture. If you have land, you can cultivate hemp and you can use it obviously to make things like oil. You can do things like sleeping, like gummies, for example, for sleep and so on, for management of your pain, and all those kind of things, for wellness. So it's really within the wellness. And then when it comes to medical cannabis, the authority there is South African Health Products Regulatory Authority, ISAPRA. So you need the license for that. So that one is quite very stringent. It's quite strict to get that license, but it's possible. You can get it. You can get it. All right. So it's possible for you to become a cannabis entrepreneur. I know that you're sitting here and you're thinking, hey, it's difficult. The license is expensive. Imali yokuqala, it's a lot of money and so on and so forth. But it's possible. In South Africa, the government has made funding available. If this is what you want to do, I want to encourage you and say, you can do it. I want to encourage you as I close and say, you can do it. It's possible to do it. You can start small. and you will succeed. Now, I've said these 5 points. Number one, cannabis. We described it. Cannabis indica, cannabis sativa, and the ruderalis. We also talked about the global value of cannabis, and we said it's important to understand the value of cannabis. And we talked about, number three, we talked about the cannabis uses, which are very medicinal. So there's a lot that is still to be done in cannabis. Number four, we talked about licensing. We talked about the GACP, the GMP, and as well as obviously the admin, the ancillary. And number five, we talked about how can you get involved. And when we talked about that, we also just made a clarification around the private use bill. So basically, I have said that is basically what the whole cannabis economy. Before I close, I want to share a story with you. I was reminded, there's a slide I want to get into. I want to share a story with you and say there is nothing that is impossible to someone that does greatly. There's a story of an eagle. I listened to a speaker over the weekend, and he reminded me of a story that I know, but he didn't tell the story the way I know it. So I'm going to tell you the story the way I know it. But anyway, it says there was a hunter. This hunter stumbled upon an eagle's egg. So he went and he found an egg of an eagle. So he took this egg home and he had it hatched with the chickens. So it was hatched, obviously after around 21 days, and then it grew with the chickens. So he fed it together with the chickens. So the eagle grew and learned all the chicken behaviors. You know what the chickens do? They cluck, cluck, they will scratch the soil, picking up seeds, picking up worms. So the eagle also learned all the chicken behaviors, the clucking, the scratching. But the eagle kind of like grew bigger than the chickens. Not only that, but it looked different from the chickens. And somehow, the eagle was also not very satisfied with the food that it was eating amongst the chickens. So the eagle began to think deeply, and began to think that maybe I am different. Even the food was not tasting nice. Somehow, even the talons were much sharper than the chicken's talons. When it's scratching the surfaces, it's a bit difficult. The beak is bent. It's difficult to pick up worms or to pick up the seeds and all that. So it was just dissatisfied. And the eagle began to think that I've got to find a meaning. But one day, as they were in their usual routine, this eagle saw another eagle carrying a live snake. And the eagle said, maybe I'm an eagle. And it said it loud. And the chicken said, you, an eagle, you grew up here. You can not go any further. You can't even fly. And you think you're an eagle. Do you know how dangerous